Hey guys, when I started playing with this build, I was worried that I'm not going to like it for much longer. But with each level and new equipment, it felt better and better, and now I really enjoyed playing this build. I reached level 90, defeated Shaper and his guardians pretty easily, tier 12 Elder, and at current prices the build could be replicated for around 200 chaos. However, the build is a bit unusual and probably not for everyone. Ignite, Wave of Conviction does the clearing, and newly reworked Holy Flame Totems help with the single target damage. And this is Chieftain. Wave of Conviction and Holy Flame Totems separately aren't that great, but when you combine them together, it does work very well. And Wave of Conviction is definitely not the best for ignites. Fireball would have probably twice or even 3 times more damage. But this is about the playstyle. Since Wave of Conviction and Holy Flame Totems are actually physical skills with the conversion, so it does work pretty well with the Chieftain, which also has the conversion from physical into fire. And items with physical damage as extra fire mods also work very well, both in helping increase ignite damage and increasing Holy Flame Totem hit damage. Wave of Conviction is not 100% converted into fire, because it does have 25% conversion into lighting, and I decided to not use Stormfire Ring, and in fact I'm using Avatar of Fire. But even despite that, I have around 220,000 ignite damage against the Shaper with Wave of Conviction, and over 400,000 DPS with the 4 Holy Flame Totems. And when you combine everything, it goes over 700,000 Shaper DPS. Also, playing this kind of hybrid self-caster plus totem build gives you kind of better average damage and more freedom to move while still dealing damage with your flame totems and ignites, of course. Also, your totems can leech life to you, drop consecrated ground which increases your regen, you become immune to curses while standing close to your totems, and because of Chieftain, every 10 seconds you gain 70% of physical damage as extra fire damage for 3 seconds. And during those 3 seconds, well, I gain overall 70% more damage. The only kind of drawback I would say is that gearing up could be a challenge. Since I am using +2 Tabula, so I had to get quite a lot of flat life elsewhere, along with proper resistances, because I'm also using Malachai's Artifice ring. And then you want certain mods like gain physical damage as extra fire mod on weapon and on the amulet. So at some point it was pretty annoying when I had to change multiple items at once before I could even go into maps again. But other than that, it just works surprisingly well. The only real challenge that I had was Syndicate in tier 16 maps. And I'm playing this before we are changing Syndicate. I believe on Friday we are supposed to get a patch, improve overall Syndicate encounters, make it less laggy, intervention would spawn less enemies, and so on. Also, if you notice, this time I'm actually playing with the Lightning Warp, and Lightning Warp only started feeling good once I leveled the Lightning Warp and full linked it. But since now I think I'm gonna always start using Lightning Warp. There has been so many times when I could not reach at certain point with the Flame Dash and only could have reached with the Lightning Warp, but that was only during the decaying memory thing, which should also be improved pretty soon. So overall, I'm really happy with this build in the end, and I would definitely recommend. It's not the highest damage, it's not the tankiest build, but it does have a unique playstyle. So I'm gonna go into more details, my items, my skills and links, and then passive skill tree. As always, in video description you can find timestamps, path for building import code, link to my streaming schedule, and all that other stuff. So items, and I'm gonna start with the body armor, +2 AoE Tabula. It could also be +2 duration Tabula, which may be slightly cheaper. And this is my Wave of Conviction setup. By the way, the first Phoenix fight I was using level 19 gems, and only after that I upgraded to level 21 Wave of Conviction, and later I'll show level 20 Holy Flame Totems. So inside Tabula I have level 21 Wave of Conviction linked with Ignite Proliferation, Combustion, Deadly Ailments, Burning Damage, and added fire damage. And I have 98% chance to ignite. And when I use Wave of Conviction, since I am only dealing fire damage, I also apply Exposure, which lowers enemy fire resistance by 25%. And because of Combustion support gem, I lower enemy fire resistance by another 19%. Then I have Malachai's Artifice ring, and I am socketing Lightning Golem inside it. And my Lightning Golem does apply Elemental Equilibrium. So then enemies lose another 50% of fire resistance. And yes, you can lower enemy fire resistance to below 0, which then multiplies your fire damage. Fire penetration does not work for damage over time, but lowering enemy resistance does work. Then I have the helmet with level 20 Immolate and a lot of flat physical damage to spells. And remember, getting flat physical damage to spells is better because you can get over 100% physical damage as extra fire. So in my helmet I have Holy Flame Totem linked with Elemental Focus, multiple totems, and Infused Channeling. And the helmet itself provides level 20 Immolate, however I need to ignite enemies, because like I said, I am using Elemental Focus, which is bigger damage multiplier when Control Destruction. And also yes, Holy Flame Totem has a channeling tag, so you can actually use Infused Channeling, however, totems cannot gain Infusion. And of course totems cannot proc cast while channeling other skills. Now the infusion, all it does is give 10% more damage. So the totem is not getting that. However, while casting, while channeling, totem is still gaining other benefits from infused channeling. Totem is still gaining 8% less physical damage taken from hits and also 8% less fire damage taken from hits. If you want more damage, definitely use Control Destruction instead, but I wanted my totems to be a bit tankier. Later you'll also see that I took 4 totem nodes on the passive skill tree as well. It just felt better when you don't need to resummon your totems every 2 seconds because they just drop dead when some syndicate shows up or looks at their way. Or you may want to swap Elemental Focus with something like Control Destruction so that your totems could ignite and benefit from Immolate without your ignites. Next, I do have a shield with +1 to maximum totems, which is pretty easy to get now. It rolls on a shaped shield. I believe I bought this shield for like 5 years. Maybe a bit more depending on the economy. I just could not stand having only 3 totems because when you summon 2 and try to summon the third one, you then unsummon one of the previous ones. So you don't really have to get a shield like that. You may want to just get the fire damage shield or maybe dual wield weapons. Talking about weapon, the weapon that I chose to use is Scepter with fire damage and gain physical damage as extra fire. And I crafted a hybrid cast speed with a chance to gain Arcane Surge buff. Arcane Surge is not needed, it's just an extra slight quality of life improvement while mapping. But I definitely wanted more cast speed because it just felt too slow, too sluggish, a bit clunky. Also tested with the shield charge and the fast attack speed weapon and it felt absolutely horrible. Chieftain just does not work well with shield charge. Now the amulet also has the gain physical damage as extra fire damage mod, along with some life resistances and mana regen. It's pretty cheap amulet, it's not the best, but it suited what I currently needed. My other ring just has a lot of life resistances and generic damage. Belt as well, life resistances, increased elemental damage, this is a fossil crafted, and also generic damage craft. If you're going for fossil craft you could use increased fire damage and increased elemental damage mods, but I just bought what was cheap on the market. It's not going to be a very big difference if you craft fire and elemental damage mods on those. By the way, you can also use increased physical damage mod because all of your skills are based on physical then converted into fire. So it does work equally well to fire or elemental damage mod. Then my favorite, Fenumus Weave gloves, which give aspect of the spider, slows enemy movement speed, and gives you more damage. By the way, when you combine aspect of the spider slow with cover enemies in ash slow, enemies start moving pretty damn slowly. In the gloves I have Stormbrand linked with curse on hit, flammability, and increased critical strike support. This is to proc elemental overload and curse enemies with flammability. It doesn't have to be in gloves, just make sure that in gloves you don't have any supports that would affect aspect of the spider. You don't want to reserve more mana than you need. Lastly, my boots are just movement speed, life and resistances. In my boots I have Lightning Warp with quality linked with less duration, faster casting and Swift Affliction. It is purely optional, you can just use Flame Dash with faster casting, maybe even link Arcane Surge to that. I also have level 1 cast when damage taken linked with Spirit Offering. This is to destroy corpses, especially good against porcupines and enemies in Delve which explode after death. Then of course I have Herald of Ash with quality, preferably, clarity, and then While Lighting Trap with increased duration. While Lighting Trap creates shock ground and increases the damage done on that enemy. So it is just for biggest bosses, to help squeeze in a bit more damage. Just make sure you do not have Anger, because Anger would affect your Lightning Golem and your Lightning Golem would mess up elemental equilibrium, increasing enemies' fire resistance. On a visuals I try to get flat life, and then physical and fire damage to spells. For flasks, nothing special. Sulfur Flask to drop Consecrated Ground gives a bit more damage, remove curses, and then Granite for a bit more tankiness. 2 life flasks, remove bleed, remove burn just in case, and Quicksilver to move fast. Now the passive skill tree. First I took this node obviously to get damage conversion and extra damage, then this one to get cover enemies in ash and leech from totems. Then I took Endurance Charge node to become slightly more tankier while mapping. And lastly, Totem node. Enemies near your totem deal less damage and take more damage. and the rest of the passive skill tree. While leveling, it was a bit hard to get more damage, because as a marauder early on all you have is life, and it takes quite a bit before you can get better damage nodes. So as a marauder, first I got to this versatility because I needed a bit more dex and a bit of intelligence for skills, and then went through the rest of the life nodes all the way up to the Templar area, only stopping to pick up a jewel socket, and then from Templar going left to get a bit of damage, then through more life, and then more to the left and up, rushing to get Avatar of Fire and more chance to ignite. I believe after that I went to the Elemental Overload and more to the Witch area through the life nodes all the way to get more ignite chance and more burning damage. And then depending on what you need, if you have good jewels, get jewel sockets. If you need more life, get more life near the Witch area along with mana nodes. Get more mana regen if you need. You may also want to take a tireless node, which would increase your life and would lower your mana cost. Especially if you are using +2 tabula, your mana cost is gonna be pretty high. And while leveling, you're most likely gonna be spamming Wave of Conviction from pack to pack. So once I got enough life, then I started taking the rest of the damage nodes, getting Divine Fury. Also taking Primal Manifestation. Nodes before that give Totem Resistances, Life, Totem Physical Damage Mitigation, and Totem Placement Speed, which is Quality of Life Improvement. And I think those 4 nodes are enough to make your totems tanky enough, while not focusing on totem nodes too much. And overall on the passive skill tree I have 214% increased life, which in the most cases is more than you need, but since I'm using Tabula which has no life, and a ring with no life, and a couple items with a bit lower life pool, so I had to offset that and get a bit more life to be tanker. Oh, one last thing, for the bandit rewards, early on I helped Alira to get a bit more mana regen and some resistances, but later once I upgraded my items to get more resistances and I didn't need more mana regen, there is a recipe to refund bandit rewards. To gain 2 passive skill points instead of what you chose, you vendor 20 regrets along with Onyx Amulet. And if you can't remember what you chose, you can type in-game chat /passives and it will show you all of your passive skill points from quest rewards. Then just find deal with the bandits, and if you killed all the bandits, it should say 2 from deal with the bandits. And that is pretty much all. This is slightly bit more detailed build guide video than I usually do because, well, I would definitely recommend this build. So that's gonna be it for now. Thank you for watching and I'll see you soon.